Michael Jordan, a name that moves through time with the force of a legend. A man whose presence stretched far beyond the hardwood and reshaped the very soul of global sports. He is the Titan who turned basketball into a worldwide language, the architect of a dynasty that transformed Chicago into a cathedral of greatness, and the icon whose silhouette became the most recognized emblem in athletic history. From a teenager once overlooked and dismissed, he rose to conquer gravity itself. 6 championships, 5 MVPs, an empire of influence that has touched culture, fashion, business, and the dreams of millions across the world. For decades, Michael Jordan has not simply represented excellence. He has redefined the limits of human potential. But behind the fire and the triumphs, behind the myth that time refuses to dim, lies a truth few ever fully understood. A truth shaped by heartbreaks deeper than any loss on the court. A father stolen from him in a moment so cruel, it shattered the world beneath his feet. A brother in spirit, taken from the sky before his prime. A lifetime marked not only by victory, but by wounds that followed him long after the cheering stopped. His story is a soaring testament to greatness, yet also a journey carved by tragedy. And as we look at Michael Jordan at 62, what emerges is not just the icon the world worships, but the man who carried unimaginable pain while lifting an entire generation to its feet. If you believe he stands among the greatest legends in the history of sports, feel free to hit like as a tribute to the strength behind the story. It is heartbreaking how the beginning of a legend can be shaped not by applause, but by a fracture. A sudden and merciless moment that cuts so deeply it follows a man for the rest of his life. For Michael Jordan, that fracture formed long before he stepped onto a national stage, long before the cameras, the trophies, and the roar of packed arenas. It began in the quiet corners of a working-class home in Wilmington, North Carolina. Michael Jeffrey Jordan was born on February 17, 1963, into a small and crowded house filled with love, discipline, and expectation. His father, James R. Jordan Sr., worked long hours as a mechanic and factory supervisor, a man who believed in teaching his children responsibility through action, not speeches. His mother, Dolores, balanced her job at a local bank with the unshakable belief that every child in her home would learn to read, write, and carry themselves with dignity. There were no luxuries in that home, no shortcuts, no promises of an easy future. What the Jordans had instead was structure, duty, and a fierce commitment to work. Michael, the fourth of 5 siblings, grew up in the whirlwind of competition that filled their modest rooms. Laughter, noise, and the constant push to be better shaped his earliest memories. But nothing shaped him more than his older brother, Larry. Larry was the storm Michael chased. Stronger, faster, sharper. He beat Michael in every backyard game, every race to the driveway, every jump in the fading Carolina light. For years, Michael lived in Larry's shadow, admiring him and aching for the day he could stand as his equal. He later admitted with disarming vulnerability, "I always thought Larry was better than me." That single sentence revealed the secret ache of a boy who often felt unseen, who wondered whether greatness lived only in other people. His father saw that ache. Believing Michael needed sharpening, he pushed the boy harder than the rest. Extra chores, higher expectations, blunt reminders that effort mattered more than talent. Yet beneath that structure was a bond deeper than words. James was the one who comforted him after losses, who whispered encouragement, who taught him how to believe in himself even when no one else did. His mother, steadfast and strong, demanded excellence not for applause, but for character. She built her children with principles that would one day carry Michael through heartbreaks far greater than any missed game. Inside that family, filled with love but charged with pressure, Michael Jordan's childhood became a quiet battleground where doubt, discipline, and desire began forging the steel inside him. But nothing cut him more deeply than the moment the world told him he was not enough. In 1978, at just 15 years old, Michael stood in the hallway of Emsley A. Laney High School, staring at the varsity basketball list tacked to the wall. Students laughed and celebrated as he searched for his name. Once, twice, again. It wasn't there. His chest tightened, his eyes burned, and before the hallway swallowed his shame, he walked away. He went home and cried alone in his room, the kind of cry that shakes a boy's belief in himself. Years later, he recalled it simply. "When I got cut, I went home and cried." That night, his father stepped quietly into the room, sat beside him, and reminded him that rejection is not an ending, but an invitation. An invitation to rise. And in the dim glow of that small bedroom, Michael picked up a basketball and began dribbling. Each bounce echoed like a vow, a promise that the boy the world rejected would one day become someone the world could never forget. From that night forward, something inside him changed. Awakening before sunrise, training until sweat blurred his vision, working when others rested, believing long after others doubted. Every disappointment sharpened him. Every insult fueled him. And every time the memory of that cut threatened to break him, he thought of the pride shining quietly in his father's eyes. Between 1979 and 1981, he grew taller, stronger, and more relentless. Scouts began noticing the boy who had once been overlooked. And by the time he stepped into the University of North Carolina in 1981, Michael Jordan was no longer just a hopeful kid from Wilmington. He was a force gathering in silence, a storm shaped by hardship, anchored by love, sharpened by heartbreak, and destined to rise far beyond the limits the world had once placed on him. From the moment Michael Jordan stepped onto the Chapel Hill campus in the fall of 1981, the world around him shifted in ways he was not prepared for. It was a place that felt enormous and relentless, a coliseum pulsing with talent, ambition, and expectation. As a skinny freshman surrounded by established stars, he felt both electrified and swallowed whole. The dorm rooms were cold, the nights were long, and the silence carried the weight of every doubt he tried to outrun. When the pressure threatened to crush him, he reached for the phone. And every time he heard his father's steady voice on the other end, the fire inside him steadied. UNC was more than a university. It was a furnace. Under the leadership of Coach Dean Smith, discipline